Hello there, hello there, hello there, and welcome back to the Agostino Zinga Show, starring I, your host, Agostino Zinga, and this is episode number 898. That is Ocho Nueve Ocho, with I, your host, Agostino Zinga, the number one cultural commentary podcast in the world. I'm so happy you could join me today. I am so happy you could join me today. For those of you who are joining me today, I just thought of something. You know, it's really interesting, or something that's been troubling me a little bit. I wonder if some of you guys are running into the same issues. I'm starting to really despise my very chatty patty concierge guy downstairs in my building. Why do I say that? Because every time that I come back into my crib, especially after the hours of 10 p.m. when he usually starts his shift, I guess they have different shifts that they rotate on to kind of cover the whole 24 hours. So there's always somebody there. The guys and girls in the daytime are a little bit lax and whatever, but he seems to be very on point in terms of always, taking over the shift from 10 p.m. He's always there on point. And sometimes he's there a little bit before. He might arrive like 9:50 and shit. So what I've noticed is that every time I come in, because I'm also a bit of a yapper, this guy is an extremely yapper. A kind of African uncle type. You know what I mean, if you know what I mean. We always end up having a little 5 to 10 minute chat. And sometimes you don't want to have a chat, You don't want to have a stop and chat. Big up Larry David. You just want to touch your fob on the entrance door, open the really heavy, horrible, piss covered, spit covered door, and just walk in to your very overpriced London apartment, right? You don't really want to have a stop and chat. You're not really in that mood. So now I'm having to I'm having to adjust my schedule so that I make sure that when I leave the crib and I come back, I don't come back at the time that he's starting his shift. So I'm actively going out of my way to avoid the concierge guy downstairs, so I don't want to stop and chat. And I feel mean if I do go past and I just do the whole wave and keep it moving. I've done it once and I felt really bad. I felt like I kind of left him with the words in his mouth, He probably had something to share, an insight, a story, an anecdote, some, story he heard back home from some of his relatives, maybe something he saw on the news, maybe a conspiracy theory he wanted to share with me. And I remember one day I just gave him I gave him a little finger point, and a little nod, and kept him moving. And I really felt bad. But I don't want to keep stopping every time, because sometimes because I like to go for a late night gym session. I like my gym session to be late night. Sometimes if I'm able to, I can get 2 a days in, so I can get a really early session in the morning, and then I can get a really heavy session in at night. It's a bit counterproductive, but that's how I like to do things. But now I'm having to change the way that I go out. I'm having to change the way that I work out so I can avoid this man, because oh my god, bro, he does not stop yapping. And when he gets you, he's like he kind of reminds me of my dad, right? Pick up my dad. But when he starts, big up my dad. There's no 2-minute conversations. There is no quick conversation. A quick conversation for my pops, and I'm sure a few of you guys out there is half an hour minimum, maybe even an hour minimum. And sometimes it's an hour without you even saying anything. You're not even encouraging. Sometimes you just try and be quiet, look down, or have your head in your hands, hoping that it's going to, send a little message. Nah, my pops just powers through. This guy downstairs in the concierge, he just powers through. Just non-stop chat. Honestly, I'm feeling a little bit attacked. I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling vulnerable. My mental health is all over the place. I'm feeling abused. I'm feeling targeted, and I'm just not feeling taken care of. And I just want to share this with you, in the hope that others have felt the same. Because big up the concierge people, big up the security guards who just are on job, who keep their head down and don't look up. Big up those are a godsend, by the way. If you live in a building, anyone who's listening to my voice right now, if you live in an apartment building where you sometimes walk past a concierge and they don't say nothing to you, and deep down you say to yourself, oh my god, that person's so rude, oh she's so rude, oh she's such a bitch, oh that guy's such a cunt. No. Be careful what you wish for. Because I have a yapper for a concierge guy, and he does not leave me alone. Big up Luana. He does not leave me alone. Every time I walk past this guy, if we have a little chat, it extends to like 10 minutes, the minimum, not even 5, a 10-minute chat. And every time I come back home, I'll come up from the gym, I've got some food in my hand, I want to quickly, like, it's just, you know what I mean? It's just, I just want to get in the crib, bro. I don't want to stop and chat. You get me? And every time this happens, you know what I feel like? I begin to have more and more sympathy with women. I begin to have more and more sympathy with the women out there. Because I think to myself, like, imagine the amount of times women have been out and about on the street, minding their business, going somewhere, and the guy just stops them. Sometimes it's you know, sometimes it's a good thing because the guy, you might be into them, but it's still a stop. It's still a stop and chat. And as a girl, you have to figure out how you're gonna like break it to this guy that you're not interested. But how long do you let the conversation overlap? You know, how long do you let the conversation go? So imagine you times those interactions by 10. Even if you stop and chat for 10 seconds, there's still an added 10 seconds into your day that you have to kind of take someone's energy in, look at their face, smile. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm not interested. I have a boyfriend, and then walk. It kind of made, I don't know why it made me think about it. I was like, wow, man, it must be exhausting. It must be exhausting to be a baddie and to always have people up in your face, always talking to you. Because I'd imagine, and hear this, I'd imagine women who live in apartment buildings have it worse than I do. If you're a woman, you live in an apartment building and you're somewhat attractive, you're most probably getting talked and spoken to by the security guard or the concierge every single day, no matter who's on shift. You know, whether it's Abraham, whether it's fucking Luke, whether it's John, whether it's Omar, whether it's Mohammed, right? Like whether it's Patel, whoever it is at the door, they are talking to you. They're hollering. They're saying something, you know? They're saying something. Can you imagine how exhausting that is? Every single day you come back from work, you just want to order a takeout. You just want to you got your takeaway in your hand, you just want to get in and fucking slobber on your fucking udon noodles, and you got this guy trying to give you some chat about, oh yeah, I'm a big fan of, you know, wherever country you're from, or you're from the Caribbean, oh spicy, you know, like what? It must be so annoying to be a girl, honestly. Big up the women out there, honestly, big up the fucking women. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just feel like I have to share that because I feel like right now, this guy is kind of like sucking out any joy that I have in the day because I'm having to stand there and engage, and I'm too nice. I can't do the whole ignore thing. I know some of you people listening are probably going to be like, Ag, just walk past him. You don't have to stop and chat. You don't owe the person a conversation. I know I don't. But I'm also a yapper. You know it. Listen to me. I've got nearly approaching 900 episodes of this show where I just yap into deep space. I love yapping. But even I am having enough. Even I have kind of reached my threshold. I've reached my breaking point. I can't do it anymore. This guy's taking up so much time and kind of fucking up my day sometimes. Like today, I purposely went out early, quote unquote, because I knew if I went out later and I finished the gym and I come back, he'd be there, you know? So I'm literally having to change my timetable and how I do my things to make sure that I avoid this guy downstairs. And I'm sure he realized too, because he's just, you know, he's an African dude. Like, he's not dumb, you know what I mean? He's got street smart. So I'm sure he'll realize soon, if he doesn't see me like in a week, he'll realize that I'm avoiding him because I'm just slipping out before he starts his shift, you know what I mean? And then one day he's going to catch me. He's going to start his shift even though he starts his shift at 10 p.m, he's going to be sat down there at 9:30. He's going to catch me and I'm going to be like, Oh man, big up uncle, big up uncle, big up blood clot uncle. Talking about uncle and talking about Africans and talking about baddies, we got to talk about Mowalola. Big up Mowalola. She sat down with Complex to have a pretty wide-ranging interview. I've seen some of the clips on their Instagram page. I haven't watched the whole thing just yet. I might react to it on my Kick channel. Check out my Kick channel, kick.com/Agostinho But this clip in particular I wanted to react to because the topic is of interest, because I've spoken a little bit about Mowalola's tendencies to be controversial, her tendency to get under people's skin, and her tendency to sometimes upset people. So she speaks about a little bit of that now. The caption says, why does Mowalola upset people? Why is she, as a black woman designer, a rarity in fashion? Is she trying to provoke people with her designs? Mowalola sits down with Aria Hughes to explore these questions and more on the new episode of whatever, Please Something. I forgot the name. So big up Aria Hughes, big up Complex. Let's hear what Mowalola has to say about her tendency to upset people.
So I don't feel like I did anything
Yeah.
bad. I feel like what they did to me was crazy. Like, I feel like they owe me an apology.
Yeah, I love that. It's already started off good. It's already started off good. I did nothing wrong. I did everything correct. Big up DSP. Fuck DSP. I love this energy already. Big up Mowalola.
Americans versus Africans.
Yes.
It's so fucking dumb. Like, when I see that discourse, I feel embarrassed for them.
How much have your parents helped you with your brand?
If I had billionaire parents, as like the internet says, I feel like you would hate me because I would be everywhere.
With like the...
So she's not denying that she has parents with money. Just not. That's a very interesting way of phrasing something. So my parents aren't billionaires, but they're millionaires, or they did well for themselves. Hence why they helped me out with the brand. Which again doesn't really matter in this grand scheme of things. It's always strange to me when designers like her do that hiding thing, because people, especially the internet, people are gonna find out. You're better off just coming out of the gate. It's no one's business, I understand, but you're better off just being honest about your background and how your upbringing, and just getting it out the way. There's no need to kind of lie. I know the whole like working class, middle class LARP or cosplay is a way for people to feel like they've earned their position, to feel real, to feel grounded. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having parents with resources that are going to help fund your business. Because fashion, I'd imagine. I've never started a brand. I'm a fan of fashion, fan of streetwear, of course, but I've never ever started a brand or anything. But I'd imagine the cost, the startup cost to start a brand must be insane, because you have to buy so much product. Unless you're making stuff to order or whatever, right? What some people do. But if you're actually gonna have your own patterns, design your own things, manufacture them, blah 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 blah, you're investing a lot of money. That's not even including marketing. That's not including e-commerce. That's not including postage, whatever else it may be. Just in terms of getting that brand started, it costs a lot. So if you have an affluent, or if you have family with resources, with money that can help you, that's not a bad thing. That's a blessing. So lying about it is weird. But I liked how she didn't clarify. She didn't really answer the question either. I know this is a clip anyway, but that's a really funny thing there.
Shirt, for instance. Do you care who wears it?
I haven't seen anyone wear it apart from me. Oh, you wouldn't want white people wearing the nigga shirt? Is that what?
Probably.
But it hasn't happened. Why does this piece of clothing like offend you so much?
Well, have you ever been offended by design?
No.
What did you think of?
It's pretty interesting, isn't it? I've never like, not to be offensive, and she's, you know, she's a lovely looking girl. I like the designs. But she comes across like a bit of an airhead, isn't it? And maybe it's just because I'm not plugged in as much, but I don't think I've ever come across a Nigerian airhead like that. You know, because usually Nigerian people are very smart, right? They value education and shit. So even if they're affluent and rich from backgrounds and shit, they still got a good head on their shoulders. So it's pretty interesting to see an African girl who's essentially a bit of a bimbo. It's kind of cool. I quite like it. But it's cool that there's nothing really going on behind it, which is why I think people shouldn't get offended by the designs. She's not trying to be malicious. She's not trying to be conniving. She's not trying to be divisive or problematic with her designs. She just saw the N-word. I like that, the fact that I like the flip. I like the fact that she took the Ebony magazine font and logo and flipped it with the N-word. I think that's a really clever flip. I think back in the day, if a streetwear brand would have done that, everyone would have been going crazy. I think she did flipping really, because you could even flip that and do blacked. You can do so many things with that, right? Mandingo, you could do these little things with that kind of flip. So I think the flipping works really well. I think the whole N-word thing is more of an American sensitivity. I'm sure some UK people are really upset about it, but I've noticed American people have a real, you know, they're very stern when it comes to making sure no one says that word in the first place, and also trying to, I guess for the lack of a better term, policing how it's used and what context. I think across the board, most probably African American people would rather we don't say that word at all, even if it is in kind of, you know, in a way to kind of be friendly with one another. I think they would rather not. But I don't think her in particular was doing it to upset people. I think she just did it because it's a vibe. Simple as that.
What did you think of the feedback about JT?
I feel like people forget about what the I Love Black Women have brought to the culture.
We see a lot of collaborations. Did they help you immensely?
I feel like mostly it's to make them look cooler than they are.
What has made you
That's a good point. I like that. Her way of talking's a little bit, it's similar to sleep. I'm not sure if that's a pill thing or just a vibe thing or just a Cali West Coast thing. But that way of talking, it's like you're a little like tough. But I'm also a really fast talker, you know. I talk so fast and I yap so quickly that people think I have ADHD, which I might have. Who knows? But her way of speaking is a little bit, you know, it's gonna send me to sleep. But she has got a point there. I like what you said about JT. I thought that campaign she did with JT with the Beats headphones was fucking phenomenal. It really was on point. It really just resonated with the whole Y2K trend, and JT's always, and I think she kind of got on the JT wave before she was fully embraced by the fashion creative quote unquote alt scene that she is now. Big up JT. And I also like what you said about collaborations. It probably is a way to be cooler, but I think a lot of collaborators, and I'm looking at probably Palace as the best example, I think it's also a way to make a lot of good free money, if that makes any sense. You get to, because if I'm not mistaken, I forgot who told me this, but someone did say that collaborations pay a lot. A lot of these brands will pay to collaborate with a brand like Palace because they have all the clout, because that brand wants to sort of like get their product in front of Palace type customers. So even though for someone like myself who's a fan of streetwear from the outside looking in, even though I fucking hate Palace, would never wear it, I still get a little bit like, I wish they would just focus on their own, you know, collection as opposed to do all the collaborations. But if you look at the collaborations they do in a calendar year and you think of it as all money, let's imagine they're getting like 500,000 each or even 100 grand for each project. That's 100 grand that they could invest back into the brand. 100 grand that they could invest into a store. 100 grand that could be invested into a new hire that could, you know, take them another level. So I see why brands do it. I see why there's a tendency to do it. I just wish as a customer, as a fan of the culture, fan of streetwear, that they would kind of slow down on the collabs, because it can sometimes have an adverse effect on both brands and end up watering down what they both do, and can end up, especially some of the customer base, when they're not really aligned, it can end up making you not want to wear it anymore because now you have these other people who you don't really know wearing it. It's all a bit weird, but I don't mind it. But I think she's on point what she said there.
you say like, I'm gonna respond to people?
I'm human. Like, why are you so angry over this? To me, it's like you're not actually angry at that. You're angry about like a lot of things in your own life. You did this, Moa, and you're a coon, and you're this. That's like the most ridiculous statement you could even make. My name.
I don't know. I think she's being a little bit facetious and willfully ignorant, but I think she should be a little bit. I don't know. She doesn't need to do anything. She's doing well, but I think if you're getting as much hate that she's getting, you should have a moment of introspection. You should take a moment to pause and to reflect and to really investigate as to why people have such a visceral or adverse or negative reaction to you. And when it comes to Moa, I think a lot of the reaction to her is quite self-inflicted. I'm not gonna lie. She has said some quite airheady things. That might just be a personality. I don't think it's a problem. I'm not sure think it's a crime to be an airhead, or to not have much about what you have to say and to just fire off things off the hilt because you just feel like it. I don't think everything has to be a fucking dissertation. Not everything has to be a TED talk. Not everything has to be a monologue or an essay. I get it. But I also think the thing that she's said in the past, the thing that she's done in the past, she should be aware that it would upset some people. I think the one thing in particular that I think really disappointed a lot of people, especially some of the black queens on social media, especially within the fashion scene, was the fact that she ended up hooking up with what's his face, Ian Connor. I think the marriage relationship with Ian Connor situation was the one that really pissed people off. And if I'm not mistaken, that wasn't even like they hid it. Like, let's examine that a little bit. They kept that secret before. My guy, what's his name, Luis Pisano, big up him. I think he's the one that broke that story because I think she was going viral and he kind of wanted to pour more petrol on the fire because fuck it. So she was kind of in the, you know, she was kind of the topic of the conversation at one point. And then he just dropped the fact that, oh yeah, by the way, she's also fucking going out with Ian Connor. They're actually married. And I think my initial reaction to it was, oh, they're probably doing it for the papers. My second reaction was like, rah, Ted, bro. This Ian Connor guy, like, you know, all, you know, with no offense at all intended, like, the lad looks like a gargoyle, right? He legitimately looks like one. But he has got an incredible CV when it comes to the girls he's hooked up with over the years. Like Ian Connor, he's got an incredible CV. So, like, you know, salute to the king. And then the third thing, I was like, I wonder why Mo would do that, considering all the hate that she already gets, negativity that's already on her name. Going out of your way to like hook up with a guy like that who's got all those allegations around him. Again, whether or not you think it's true or not, when it comes to Ian Connor, is no one's fucking, I don't really give a fuck to investigate it too tough. But reputation online isn't the greatest. People said a lot of bad things about what he may or may have done relating to those allegations, however many R words he might have done. I think what's the troll? I think it's like 32, 33 or something. So I'm surprised that she's surprised that she would get hate on social media if that's her guy. We this is not a good example because Nicki Minaj is huge, but look at the amount of hate that Nicki Minaj gets for her decision to hook up with what's his name, the guy that she's with, and her baby daddy and the husband, whatever she's with. And I think that case is way complex. I think that case is a lot more. It's not as cut and dry. It's probably the media likes to make it seem as, but still, a lot of people, despite not liking Nicki for what she has to say, judge her harshly because of who she got in a relationship with. And again, it shouldn't matter, these kind of things, but I think you should be conscious of the fact that, okay, cool, I'm getting with this person who a lot of people don't like. I have to be aware that because I love them, I'm also going to inherit their problems and their beefs. You just got to be okay with it and keep it moving. But Moa doesn't seem to have an idea or understanding about that, and maybe thinks that all the hate is a bit unwarranted, which is a bit, whatever. But what can you do?
My name is Mowalola, and I'm not trying to be anything other than that.
Like I said, I'm just surprising. It's just surprising to me because maybe I've not been outside long enough, but I don't know. I don't think I've ever encountered a lady like her. I think that's probably why she's so hard to take your eyes off and keep attention to until it comes to her designs and her clothing brand and shit. But when she speaks, you're like, interesting. There's not a lot going on there, innit? So I think if you're a hater and you watch this interview, I think you should come away from it thinking nothing's intentional, She's just doing it for the vibes. She's wanting, she's got ideas she wants to put out there. Some of them are not going to be the most tasteful. Some of them might be, a little bit insensitive. Some of them might rile you up the wrong way. But again, it's a free world. If you don't like it, just don't buy the clothes, It's Mowalola. It's not fucking H&M. You can easily avoid buying her stuff and not being, a part of her world by just completely kind of keep on scrolling whenever you see her mentioned. So big up Mowalola. I'm a big fan anyway, and I can't wait to see what she does going forward. But the interview was interesting. Talking about interesting interviews and talking about interesting people, big up Bambii. Big up Blood Clot Bambii. So I spoke about Bambii before in this particular pod, relating to her not so good interaction that she had when she was playing alongside the Black Madonna, now known as the Blessed Madonna. And they had a bit of a bad interaction, mainly because the Blessed Madonna, aka the Black Madonna, was being a little bit of a turntables hog, CDJ hog, set hog, right? We've all been there, we've all been there as a Bambii. I don't think I've ever hogged the decks, but I remember even one time I was playing at a warehouse rave in like Hackney Wick ages ago, many years, maybe even before the pandemic. And this is just some warehouse rave that friends have organized, and we're DJing there, having a great time. And one of the guys was just like, he would not get off the decks. He refused to leave the decks. Literally, I think he might have ate into like half an hour of our set, or maybe an hour. He was being so obnoxious. Literally, I think he didn't even look up. He was avoiding looking up and shit, and just kept on mixing and playing. And I've never really understood the attitude. I understand the attitude of like refusing to get off the decks if like the club's about to close, right? Because you're feeling the energy, you want to keep on going. The people are still dancing and they're giving you more energy still, blah, 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 blah. You may have popped a couple pills and shit, so you're really feeling it. But when a fellow DJ comes, you should do the right thing, the courteous thing, the well-mannered thing, and just let them play. You know what I mean? Especially if you've gone over the time. Anyway, that's where I remember her from. But this is a really heartbreaking story, concerning her recent set that she played at Coachella. Now, I gotta be honest, I didn't know this is a thing. According to what I haven't read the whole thing yet, but I'm gonna react to it now with you guys. But I didn't know that a festival like Coachella would have people playing for exposure. That's allegedly what's kind of going on, and what she's kind of exposed via her Instagram stories. I've heard of it happening in like this, I won't say the smaller level, but I've heard of it happening to like up and coming DJs. Like one person I spoke to essentially told me, like, because I think I congratulated her on like playing at some really sick lineup or venue somewhere in Amsterdam, and she's like, oh yeah, it's a good look, but it's not paid or anything. When you come up as a DJ, essentially she kind of gave me this insight You have the opportunity sometimes to play for cool parties. So like I'm kind of obsessed at the moment with this, this party collective or this rave out there in Berlin called Multisex. That's mostly a house sort of night. There's a possibility if you ever played at Multisex or you played at Erste Commune, for instance, if you're an up-and-coming person, because those clubs and those raves have a lot of clout behind them, they're quite well attended and whatever, they might get you into play, but they won't pay you. So they might pay for your flight, they might pay for your accommodation, but because they're getting you under the proviso of like, we're going to do more for your career if you play for us for free than if we pay you. And you would obviously agree because you want to be on that lineup, you want to be playing at that cool club, you want to be around those cool people. So I understand it happening on that level, but I wouldn't expect like a fucking festival like Coachella to be having people, just play for exposure. That sounds fucking nuts. But I also understand the predicament you'd be in as an artist, because Coachella is still a big deal. So what do? Do you like refuse to pay for free and pay for exposure at Coachella? No, although you do know if you play there for free, it could literally change your career, because you never know who's watching via the streams. You never know who's watching right there, IRL. You never know what may happen in a run up to it. You could bump into somebody on your way out from fucking In-N-Out Burger and shit. Loads of things could happen. So it must be such a weird place to be in. But Bambii essentially exposed all of this on her Instagram story. So let's read through the captions or the screenshots. The screenshots were provided by that what's his name? Michaeli, the guy that used to work for Boiler Room back in the day. I think he posted on his social media, so big up him for posting this shit. Let's read through it. Bambii said as follows on her first screenshot. I guess this is supposed to be my oh my god, I played Coachella post. And while it might be cool or strategic, I think I'll just be brutally honest. Under the guise of exposure, a lot of free labor from artists is normalized. I've spent years playing shows around the world on the very premise, and it's sometimes being worth it and sometimes has not. I have to say, in this industry is also an ultimatum that disproportionately gets offered more to POC or female artists. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm not too sure how you can prove that, to be honest. I guess you'd have to talk to other people. But I'd be interested if that's true. If the majority of people who are non-white and women normally are the ones who get approached for like exposure sets. Or if it's just across the board, if you're up and coming, you get, or if you're like not that well known. Because I wouldn't say Bambii's up and coming. She's been established for a while. She's been doing bits for a while. But I guess if your profile isn't as big, or you're not as famous, or you don't have as many followers, maybe they always kind of come to you with exposure first. Because as well, they know gigs are so, few and far between, and everyone's fighting over the same fucking spots. I wonder if that's the reason why. But anyway, let's continue on. I know from the outside playing Coachella seems like a privilege. However, when you aren't even paid like at all, LOL, and the basic standard is met, it really just becomes extrative. That's brutal. I'm shocked. I'm legitimately shocked that a festival of the scale like Coachella would have people playing for exposure. Because in my head, I think maybe not everybody's getting $1,000 of a fee, but I would imagine like a nominal fee of like $100, $500 even, would have to be paid to everyone that's playing. To have people playing at such a prestigious, well-attended, well-sponsored, well-backed festival like Coachella for free is just really, really fucked up. And even if they lost money, I don't even care if they're losing money. Even if they don't make money, even if this is just a complete money sink, it wouldn't matter. Just from optics alone, having people playing for free is just crazy. Especially in this economy, especially in this world that we live in. It's absolutely nuts. But I also understand the predicament, like she said, that if you're an artist, you feel a little bit like you have to do it for the exposure, which is, and then they have you over the fucking barrel. So the other post. Yesterday when I pulled up, the artist before warmed me that the sound had been chipping out to dead silence for sometimes minutes at a time, pretty much during every single song that was played, and had been doing this for hours during all the previous artist sets who played before me. Okay, that's when I'm going to get nuts. That's when I'm going to get mad. At my level of playing, right? At my level of DJing, which is essentially playing in pubs and bars for £100, sometimes drinks tokens, sometimes you get paid in drugs, right? For my level of playing, I'm used to going to play in places where the mixer has no knobs, the CDJ pitch slider doesn't work, the Q button on one CDJ or both CDJs doesn't work, so you have to play everything via the play or use the actual DJ fucking function to kind of jog things around. Or maybe there's no monitors, or maybe no, there is a monitor, but that also acts as a speaker for the fucking club space you're in. So I'm used to that because of my level that I'm at. But I think if you're a Bambii level DJ, right, which is essentially a professional DJ, she does this for a living, I would assume. I don't think she has a regular 9 to 5. To pull up to a place like Coachella and have those very same issues that I have with equipment, with sound, with lighting and shit, that'll make you question everything. That'll make you question whether or not you made the right decision and the right career choices in life. If you're playing at that level and you're still running into things like having sound issues and shit, sound cutting out, and there's no one to help, because I'd imagine a place like Coachella, whoever is in charge of, you know, sorting out the sound, the tech guys, the whatever, they're probably running around looking after the main stages that are on stream, because those can't go down, right? Those are the ones that are going out to millions, if not billions of people. So they have to kind of be on top of those. So if the sound does go out, something does happen, you have to just figure out yourself as DJs that are playing. Fucking crazy. She continues, the equipment I played on was also completely malfunctioning. It's safe to assume that we had a bigger artist had we had been bigger artists on the main stage, this issue would have been fixed way earlier within the show day. Unfortunately, the music industry, especially in the US, is quite hierarchical, with basic care only being given when you are super established. Though some effort was made after my team and I pushed to the issue, I believe there was a comfort with letting the artists play below industry standards, because we are primarily all seen as up-and-coming female artists. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. So they had to really push to get everything fixed, and when it did get fixed, a little bit too late, and already you're kind of been bummed out, you wasted a bunch of time, because there is nothing, I don't think the only stress that matches being stressed out when you're playing and the sound isn't working, you're having tech issues, is maybe having a brain fart and not knowing what to play. That's the only thing that can compare. Like when you're mixing and you don't know what to play next, you're kind of having a brain freeze. That is such a stressful moment, because most of the time people on the dance floor don't even recognize or notice that you're struggling to find a new track or the next track. But the only thing that can come close or maybe surpass that is sound issues or tech issues out of your control. Because sometimes you have basic stuff that you know about, right? In terms of ensuring the cables are plugged in correctly, maybe fiddling around with the gain, figuring around with the outputs, making sure everything's plugged in the same place, RCA. There's some things that you can kind of fix yourself, right? Maybe moving the fucking monitor away from the decks to kind of help with the feedback, maybe trying to get the grounding cable sorted out. Little things that you could do as a person that actually plays. If the fucking CDJ, one of the foots are a bit wonky, you got a little paper in your pocket, you can kind of fold underneath it to make it solid, whatever. You can do some things. But surely at that level too, the whole reason why you have a rider, the whole reason why you're a professional, is also so you can not have that issue come up. So you just come, turn up with your USBs and your headphones and just play. That's how it should be. It should be as little friction as possible. You shouldn't be required to like be fixing things or be hailing somebody to fix it on shit like that. So I think she's well within her rights to complain about this, but it is quite sad to see that this still happens no matter what level you're at, especially if you're a POC person and shit. It continues. Bambii says, I know the move would be to just post a picture in front of the giant crowd and feed the illusion of success, but in reality I wasn't being paid. I flew myself out and spent thousands of my own money to invest in an opportunity, and essentially was severely misrepresented and embarrassed in front of thousands. Like so many other artists on that bill, it took a lot of hard work to even get to the position to be booked. Music is my entire life, and I believe at bare minimum the least a festival as reputable as Coachella could provide an artist they aren't playing is a working sound system. She is 100% right, 1,000,000% right. That is so heartbreaking. She flew out herself. She got her own accommodation, and they couldn't even have the bare minimum done in terms of having the sound and the visual sorted out. That's crazy. But it also goes to show how the industry actually works, right? The industry, like, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, really. Because like I said again, Coachella's way too big of a festival. They make way too much money. They book way too many high-profile people to have people on the list that don't get paid. But I guess in some respects, it makes sense. Because the bigger the festival, like, now I'm thinking about it, every festival that I've seen with like super well-known DJs playing and then there's like smaller, not well known, up and coming people playing on the list too, it's safe to assume that the booker or the organizer is spending a lot of their money to book those people that they know that can guarantee tickets and sales and shit and people coming through the door. But then the people who are lower down, smaller font, they're most likely playing for free to fill up the lineup because they can't afford to pay them, essentially. But I just don't think it's acceptable for Coachella to do that. I think for sure, if they can't afford to pay you, that's one thing. But at least cover the travel, you know? At least cover my flights and ground travel, motherfucker. At least put me up accommodation-wise. Like, God almighty. Like, and I bet you any money, pick up Bambii for posting this, I bet you any money they're also tight on the food. I bet you any money they're also tight on the fucking drinks and food. I bet you she probably got comped on some drinks, but she didn't get anything for free. I bet you she had to fucking fight to get a fucking meal or a drink or something. So on top of not paying you, they're also requiring you to travel there by yourself, feed yourself. And I assume for a woman, just, you know, moving around is way more difficult, way more expensive, way more labor inducing than a guy. Guys, you just pick up your bag and keep it moving. Girls have to consider way more different things. Maybe she travels with a team. I don't know, but it's different for them. So not having any sense of looking after people is crazy. It's also weird to hear that there's no like person to liaise, you know, someone on the ground floor who can kind of sort out these issues. Maybe one person per stage who just is in charge of like, okay, if the person's got an issue, so that she doesn't have to panic and like move from the decks, she can just signal to somebody and they can do all the running to get this thing sorted. That should be something that should be done. So you know when you play, okay, cool, this is your person, this is fucking Lauren, she's going to be helping you out in terms of everything you need. Please go to her. She has a walkie-talkie. She has access to everything that you need, extra cables, this, that, a drink, bloody blah, 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 whatever it may be. This is your person. But I guess I didn't have that. And then the last slide, Bambii says, I'm really struggle sometimes with saying something in fear of appearing angry or jaded, but responding to this moment with no critique and thank you so much Coachella post just isn't honest. Exactly, and I agree with her. I'm glad she said that. It's also one of the unfortunate things about being black. If you raise your voice, if you share your opinion, if you're brutally honest, you can sometimes be seen as being the angry black woman / black man. So it can be really hard to kind of gauge how you should approach things when you feel like you've been disrespected, when you feel like you've been misrepresented, when you feel like you haven't been looked after in general. It's hard to know if you call it out, will it fuck you up? Will you be just seen as angry and bitter? And will it just hamper your career as well? Because you'd imagine a lot of the, I don't know. I think DJing is just similar to like rave culture. Or no, it's similar to just being a rave on the dance floor. If you want to be a person that consistently gets on guest lists and is always in green rooms, I would assume you just have to be a bit of a lick ass. So it probably works the same way in DJing. If you kind of put up with a lot of shit, if you don't complain, if you're always malleable, if you're always agreeable, if you're always open for this and that, and you don't have a problem with last minute changes, and you can drop everything that you do to meet somebody, to do this, to help somebody out, most likely the DJ is probably going to help you out. It's probably going to be very handy. Even more so, big up Richie Ahmed, even more so if you're able and willing to be the runner for the group. Imagine you're an up-and-coming DJ, but you're friends with other DJs who are a bit more popular. Imagine you are more than happy to fucking do the fucking, you know, the late night afters news agents run. You're happy to go and get some drinks. You're happy to go pick up some multivitamins. You're probably going to get further in your career. But if you put your foot down, if you draw a line in the sand, if you kind of demand your respect, it might have some adverse, you know, it might have an adverse effect on your career. So it's a weird place to be. It continues. In a small way, it kind of normalizes these unfair exchanges and how these spaces exploit our aspirations of being on these platforms. I'm grateful for what I've been able to do thus far, but I'm also clear. Gonna be deep in reflection about how I'm going to be moving forward because I care too much about music to be out here lying about how it truly operates. Exactly. And also lying about how it hurts, you know, lying about how it hurts. Because I'm assuming this has happened other times in Bambii's career, unfortunately, or she's been in positions similar, and it just hurts, isn't it? But you have to always put a brave face on it. You have to post that picture outside of the club in front of the fucking fans, act like everything's good, when really it's not good because you feel like you've been disrespected and you're not being looked after. And it probably hurts even more so when it's your dream, right? A lot of us, myself included, we want to play professionally. You want to be out there in clubs. You want to be out there in festivals and shit. And you finally get to that level where you feel like your career is going somewhere. And it turns out to be a nightmare. Like the career that you wanted isn't really the career that you get, and you sometimes feel like, am I complaining? Am I not being grateful? You know, am I kind of spitting in the face of my blessing? But no, in this case, she has no reason to feel like that. She's every right to be upset and up and angry. Number one, like I said, I'm just shocked and surprised that Coachella, a festival of that level, has people playing for the look, but then also doesn't cover ground transport, flights, accommodation, or anything. You have to literally turn up yourself. You get booked, yeah, you get on the fucking lineup list, but you don't get fucking anything out of it except for the exposure. And I'm not even sure if her set got even streamed. That's another thing, by the way. So the exposure is great, but her set didn't even get streamed, I don't even think. So that's even a no-so. If you're going to book me for free for pay Coachella, cool. And you're not going to pay my flights or accommodation, that hurts, but cool. But at least fucking stream me on the YouTube channel. I don't think her set was even streamed. That's a par. But she did follow up, and she posted another follow-up, actually. Somebody screenshotted. Big up this user here called Next Dimensional. Let's see what she said here via the follow-up, a clarification. I wonder if she walked anything back. Hopefully she didn't walk anything back. Hopefully she's still standing on business, but let's see what she had to say regarding this issue. So here's Bambii. She says as follows. I wasn't going to speak on this again, but unfortunately the story has hit the music mags, and as to be expected, some of my words and sentiments are being twisted. I'll never understand why simply being transparent in this industry gets you painted as ungrateful or bashing. I think that happens because, just to answer that question, I think when you complain, people have that reaction, mostly because the people who are saying it want to be you. And they think if they're in the same position, they'll just take whatever's given. But I don't think that happens. I think when you're in a place of like having little, like right now, like I can't remember the last time I got booked to play somewhere. It must have been a couple of years now. It's been a long time. When you're in a place where you haven't been booked in ages, or you're like fighting to get booked, and you see somebody that's getting booked and they're doing well, but they start complaining, it can feel like they're being ungrateful for what they have. But most likely, if you're in the same position as them, you will be complaining too, because these complaints are universal. No, like I don't think she's complaining about not being paid. I would complain about that. I think she was okay. She agreed to go play Coachella and not be paid. She was fine with that. Her problem was that she wasn't looked after. There was no professionalism. There was no duty of care given to her and the other DJs because they were quote unquote smaller acts, and it kind of made for a shit experience. And if you care about what you do, if you care about doing a good job, if you care about showing out for your fans, if you care about making a good impression, the whole reason why you took the fucking gig is to fucking potentially get in front of certain people's eyes. And now you have all these sound issues. It's going to make you look bad. It's going to make your product, which is you and how you play, look horrible. So she has every right to complain. But the people that are saying to her she's being ungrateful are people that probably wish that they could be in that same position. But if they were, they would also be complaining. It continues. But to be extra clear, if you're new here, please know that I am not. I am not to be I may not be traditionally quote unquote famous, but for the last decade and some, I've been a full-time artist touring the entire world. Alright, go on Bambii, let your fucking nuts hang. Organizing large-scale productions in my own city and abroad. Booking other artists, producing music for myself and others, the list goes on. By the way, that's a big flex, by the way. It's one thing to say that you tour around the world performing as a DJ, but saying that you put on productions and shows and you put on other artists and shit and release your own shoot, that's a real flex. Because anybody can DJ, anybody can play around the world. But can you put on your own shows though? Can you put money in other people's pockets? Yeah, you're a boss. It continues. A lot of money I make, I reinvest into my shows, tours, music videos, etc. I've understood as an artist, you are signing up for a constant gamble. So much labor is just about getting your foot in the door. Technical/sound issues are definitely not new experiences for me, but for them to last an entire day at one of the richest festivals in the world in a context where artists are given free labor, I stand on that being unacceptable. Everyone has a lot of opinions, yet those do not know the vulnerability of standing in front of a large crowd trying to communicate your craft. Exactly. By the way, if you've not DJs before, imagine, I'm sure some of you have spoken in front of a crowd or in front of a room. Could you imagine speaking in front of a room with a microphone and it's not working? Do you know how nerve-wracking that feels? When you're speaking in front of a crowd and the mic isn't working, maybe the cable is like broken and it keeps cutting out. Maybe you just hadn't turned it on and you don't know. Something's happening. It can be so nerve-wracking. Immediately you start sweating, you start panicking, you start fucking hyperventilating inside. You know, it goes fucking nuts. So imagine how much stressful it could be when you're on a stage like Coachella and you know, you're at this amazing fucking festival, this well-attended festival, this well-regarded festival, covered all over the fucking press, and you're in front of all these people, some of them who don't fucking know who you are, because that's how festivals work, right? A bunch of people come to just see other people play, but they're passing by to see who you are, and you want to put on a good show for these people because you care about what you do, you love what you do. It's not a job, it's a fucking calling that you're doing, and then suddenly the gear isn't working. That's going to make you sweat buckets. That's going to put you in a real state of anxiety. So I get why she's saying that. I honestly get that. My only issue here, I think also in this, is that I think these sound issues, tech issues are unacceptable. Why? Because also with the festival, I just thought about this now, they're very they're very tight with time. It's a very kind of like military operation. Like, you can't waste any time. If you're late, then whatever time you have left, that's how the time you have left. You can never go overtime. They run a very tight ship. So it's strange that they would allow such tech issues to persist when it could negatively affect the entire roster of people who are playing on that stage. You know what I mean? You would imagine, you'd think that there would be more onus, responsibility to make sure the sound and tech is good, because you have to be so militant with the timings and shit. But, you know, I could be wrong. She continues and she says to the end, I'm sorry that the imagination of most is limited by fame and capitalism, that small artists advocating for basic things seems ungrateful and entitled. It's not. I think naturally this will end up doing her the world of good. I think most likely fucking Coachella is going to see this and they're going to respond, and they're going to make sure that the tech issues are ironed out, especially for this weekend, because there's 2 weekends, right? So hopefully she's playing this weekend. I think she is. But if she isn't, then I'm assuming whoever's going to be playing is going to benefit from her complaining, because they're going to sort out and they're going to iron out and fucking, you know, whatever else there may be when it comes to tech and sound issues. It's just a shame that she had to kind of go through it in the first place, because at that sort of level of a festival, you expect it not to happen. But I guess it's also good for people to know, who want to get into the industry, what it's actually about. You know what I mean? There's going to come a point where, depending on how ambitious you are, you're probably going to have to figure out in your head how badly you want it and what things you're willing to do and not to do to get there. You know? And I think sometimes a lot of people, myself included, you know, comparison can be the thief of joy. You can be looking at somebody thinking, oh yeah, I want to do that, I want to be there, but you don't know that, you know, they might have played like 5 gigs back to back where they've kind of had to, you know, essentially pay their way to play. And they're just looking for the next one, and they keep paying for the next one, hoping that's going to be the one that's going to make them blow. So maybe playing on your local circuit can seem a little bit small time, but at least you're playing in front of people. At least you maybe put some money in your pocket. At least you get to play out in general, and you're not consistently having to invest, because it's already stressful. It's already costs a lot. Just, you know, I've put on my raves myself, just putting on events in clubs where everything's already installed and shit. But imagine how much more expensive it must be when you're having to invest in yourself in this way and pay for flights and accommodation and shit. It must be a lot. It must be super stressful. So the least you can do, the least these people can do, they're booking you for free, is to make sure the sound and the tech is working. But I guess these motherfuckers are like this. But big up Bambii. Appreciate her for sharing what she shared, and hopefully those problems get sorted out. Big up this guy called Mikhail, aka Opium Hum. He posted this. I think he's the same person that posted the thing about Bambii. Basically taking the piss out of this guy. The caption says main character syndrome is killing DJ culture, and it features a dude playing on HAAi, the toilet DJ live streaming platform thing. And as he's playing, he does something very, very interesting and unexpected. So as you can see there, as he's playing, as he's doing a transition, he does a backflip, a full backflip, knees tucked, hands in between his fucking knees, or hands, you know, at the back of his knees, and then he continues playing. I personally think that's quite sick. I'm not gonna lie. I don't agree with this Mikhail guy, that this is main character syndrome. I really do think this is kind of fun. This is kind of cool. I would fucking go crazy if I was in a rave somewhere and the DJ that I was seeing, watching, playing, somehow busted into a fucking random, unexpected backflip mid-mix. You know what I mean? Mid-transition. Don't get me wrong. Are the tunes any good? Not the best. Not something I would be interested in. But I do like the fact that he's trying to put on a show, because more often than not, these days, especially with a lot of professional DJs, there's a lot of like being too cool for school behind the booth. there's something inherently, I think, corny about being a DJ, especially if you're over the age of like 19, right? Being proud to walk around and call yourself a DJ is incredibly, incredibly lame. It should never be regarded as a very cool thing to do. It's very loserish, right? To be somebody of a grown age, over the age of 19, and be proudly saying you're a DJ. So if you are going to be a DJ, I think the most you can do, or the best thing you can do, the least you can do actually, is to put on a show for the people watching. Don't just stand there looking all glum, looking all sad, wearing your all black clothing, just staring down at the fucking decks, looking at the mixer, not making eye contact with the people dancing, not even dancing yourself, acting like you just want to go back to your hotel and rail a bunch of fucking lines with some random girls from fucking Switzerland and shit. No, at least pretend and act like you're having a good time. At least pretend and act like you want to perform and play, because a lot of us, myself included, you kind of got into DJing because you were a raver first. Because you're on the dance floor going crazy. You loved being on that dance floor. You loved having a fucking good time. And then over a period of time, you might realize, you might think to yourself, hey, I want to put on a rave. Oh, you know what? I want to get behind the booth. Or I want to work in the industry. That's how it usually starts. So I never understand how these DJs who start from that place get to the level, work really hard, where they become professional DJs, where they get to play in these famous clubs, famous festivals, and they just stand behind the decks looking very sad, looking very glum, being too cool for school, having that, ego, fucking big time aura shit. Like, allow it. Enjoy yourself, man. Let loose. Have a bit of fun. Be a bit silly. And on this particular thing, in this particular instance, this particular guy, I think this is the best place to do it, because this is a DJ live stream. And the caption's fucking amazing. He says he trained for 3 months. I love that. I love that he was at home somewhere, wherever he's from, in his country, or in his room, wherever he may be based, learning to do backflips. I love that he was on YouTube breaking down how to do backflips, figuring out, like, the technique is fucking so on point. He was figuring out how to do backflips, so the day that he played on HAAi, he could show out and he could improve and he could prove to everybody out there that he could do a fucking backflip. That's fucking cool. I really like that. So big up this kid. I don't know who you are, but I love to see it, and I wished more DJs would have more fun behind the booth. Not everyone needs to do a fucking backflip, but I love the fact that you're at least trying to put on a show for the fans watching, especially on the DJ live stream platform. I think these platforms are already kind of boring anyway to watch. They're maybe not that bad to listen to, but they're kind of boring to watch, myself included, because you're just standing behind the deck playing tunes. So if you're going to play, at least put on a fucking show. And this guy, he put on a show. He put on one hell of a show. So big up him. Big up him. Next, I wanted to play this clip featuring Lil Nas X. Big up my guy, Lil Nas X. I was wondering, aloud, how many multivitamins do you need to inhale? Do you need to put on the tip of your tongue to end up paralyzing half of your face? Please tell me.
And when I smile, this is me doing a full smile right now, by the way. It's like, what the fuck? Bro, I couldn't even laugh right, bro. What the fuck? Oh my God. So, oh my God, bro. So, yeah. And when I smile.
So, as you can see here, as you're not watching, basically, Lil Nas X is in the hospital, and it looks like he lost control of the right side of his face. So he's basically, recording himself on the hospital bed. He's showing that half of his face is paralyzed. Now, most likely this is probably Bell palsy, but there's also a likelihood this could be the adverse effects of just doing too much gear. And I wonder, what is the amount? Like, what is the amount of gear you need to do to A, get a heart attack, and to B, maybe paralyze half of your face? I'm just asking for a friend here. I'm asking for a friend. How much gear does one need to do to get to that level? Because that's pretty crazy. Because he's quite young and shit. To have this sort of stuff affect him is kind of insane. But also, he's probably under a lot of stress because his career's kind of been a bit up and down. I know he dropped a single recently that's doing pretty decently well, but it's, from what I've been seeing online of him, he's looked a bit erratic. He's looked a little bit desperate. He's looked a little bit like, all over the place. So maybe he's been struggling to kind of get his, get some momentum back when it comes to his career, when it comes to music and whatever it may be. That might have had an adverse effect, then kind of led to his face being paralyzed, but it also could be the fact that he's just having too much fun. You know, he's having his way with all the fellas out there and maybe some ladies too, and he's just having a bit too much fun and he needs to maybe rein it back a bit. I don't know, but I'd love to know what the amount is to get you like that. What the amount is to get you like that. Next, we got this post. Big up Fold. This is courtesy of a panel discussion that Fold did. I'm not too sure if this was the one. No, this wasn't. I don't know if this was in collaboration with that other party, but I saw this and I wanted to react to it via the podcast anyway. So let's read the caption. The caption says as follows: Nix_bad from Black Artist Database speaking on our Fold Talks panel about the necessity to educate dance floors on the black origins of techno. So you know, the caption basically says says what she's going to say. So let's play the clip and see what she has to say, and then I'm going to react to that now.
When it comes to UK and Western Europe, we are so divorced from the roots. It's actually shocking.
It's shocking.
And we are actually lucky that we know as much as we do, because the way it was exported over here and sold to a Western audience as EDM, as an industry in the 80s, no one was calling this an industry. That wasn't a term. You wouldn't use these, you know, business terms. It was literally just, you go into a warehouse, enjoy yourself, and go home.
Awesome moves.
So I think we are so divorced from what it was. The way that we have been sold techno is how it was intentionally sold to us, because it wasn't an accident that it was exported from Detroit at the same time. The driving services was also being exported out of Detroit. It wasn't an accident that both things were being exported as an industry to be sold into this new Western audience. You know, look at festivals now, how much money they make from like a sound that was not its intentions at all. So when we go back to your point of like, why in the UK are we so disconnected from its origins? It's because that's how it was sold to us intentionally.
I'm not gonna lie, right? As much as I enjoy this conversation and big up the Black Artist Database, and I'm happy they got they had a collaboration with Fold. They did an Unfold recently this past Sunday that was all black DJs playing. I think they're probably the first time ever Fold has had a black lineup, which is kind of insane considering where it's located. I literally used to live around the corner from Fold. My mum still lives there now. Big up CT. And you know, the first time they had an all black lineup was when Black Database kind of, you know, collaborated with them and put on that Unfold night. And I would imagine it was probably a good lineup as well. I think I saw the lineup of people playing and it looked pretty fucking sick. So big up them. But a part of me also thinks like this conversation is a little bit boring, isn't it? And I'm not too sure what it actually does in terms of changing things, because I understand and I get the importance of educating people on the roots of where this music or where anything comes from. I understand the importance on educating the younger, you know, generation, the importance on people just knowing the history of whatever happened, the importance of acknowledging the forefathers, the forebearers, the originators, the founders. It's all important. But I also think there's too much onus put on that, when really I think what's trying to be said here, what's trying to be kind of said without saying, is that maybe a lot of us black and brown people, a lot of us non-white people basically, maybe sometimes don't feel that represented when it comes to modern day club culture, when it comes to techno, when it comes to house, when it comes to whatever, nightlife. I think a lot of us maybe feel like we're not represented in the way probably we feel like we should when we think of the musical origins, or myself included, when it comes to just going out and you see people on the dance floor, and the dance floors are incredibly diverse and rich, with all people coming from all different parts of the world, from different socioeconomic backgrounds and shit. And you look at the lineups, it's just the same old people playing. Whether it's the boys club, whether it's just friends, cliques, whatever, it's just the same old regurgitated lineups. So that just becomes boring and not really reflective of the scene. But I also think when it comes to precisely the black thing, I think the way to go about it would be to just encourage and to maybe promote this music that we all love, which is techno and, you know, anything concerning electronic music, dance music, to more black people, so that they would feel like they can get involved or feel more comfortable to get involved. Because there might be, the reality of it might be the fact that there's just not enough of us involved to really affect change. But I think if you do maybe spread it and maybe get playing these type of things more in black spaces, which is kind of rare as well. I feel like a lot of us, especially myself included, you end up playing this music to like a mainly white audience. You're not really playing it to your peers or people, no, or to people that look like you. You're playing it mainly to other people that don't look like you. But maybe if you want to get more people involved in general, you just start playing that stuff more to people that look like you, and hopefully that can maybe get more people in through the door. But I think that's needed. And I think as you get more people in and you get more people on who look like us playing that type of shit, then through the act of playing, through the act of DJing, through the act of putting on events, through the act of making music, through the act of maybe opening up your own clubs, you can start to affect change. You can start to maybe have different options out there. But I think talks, discussions, reminders, you know, all of this stuff doesn't really do much. You know, it really doesn't. It really doesn't do that. Like, I think, you know, and there's also maybe an over importance as well there. This idea that, oh yeah, all music genres come from black people. You know what I mean? We're the most important race out there. Like, without us, then, you know, things don't matter. It's like, it's a bit more complex than that. You know what I mean? It's maybe that the origins of this music have come from black culture. Yes, I don't dispute that. But there is also a big contribution from, you know, people in Europe, people in other parts of the world who kind of took that sound and kind of carried it on, developed it, you know, whatever else, added to it, and essentially were able to kind of take it and do really big things with it. So it's not fair to just say, oh, you've taken that, now give it back to us so that we can do it. It's like, no, build on what they've done and then kind of use what they've done to kind of push the message to other folks that kind of look like us. That might be the way to go about it, because I don't know. I sometimes look at these things, because I sometimes feel like this too. I sometimes feel like maybe sometimes there is a lack of acknowledgement with the impact that maybe blacks have had in terms of dance music, electronic music, nightlife and shit. But there's sometimes I think, does it really matter to have this discussion when really the way to fix it is to just get more involved? Just get more involved, for lack of a better term, work harder, put out more shit, and then via the act of you doing that stuff and representing and being who you are, naturally people will be like, oh shit, there is also these people doing this shit, you know what I mean? As opposed to just sitting on panel discussions complaining about it, which she's not. Actually, this is, you know, out of context, it's a bit large discussion, but I don't really know how helpful, beneficial, valuable this sort of stuff is in the grander scheme of things. I don't really know, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Moving on. Big up my guy Rene Wise. Big up my guy Rene Wise. It's fucking sick to see how far his career has gone in the last 18 months, maybe even longer. I feel like he's from the time that I kind of found out about him, he's now become a legitimate big deal. Really, really, really fucking big deal, which is fucking great to see. Somebody kind of, you know, that you kind of follow, and now they become like a superstar DJ, like approaching that kind of level. And he sat down with RA for an In Conversation series, and it looks like the caption says here, psychedelics really helped form my approach to music. British DJ and producer Andrew Shawberry, is that how you say his name? Shawberry or Shawberry, aka Rene Wise, joins Chloe Lula on the latest RA exchange to reflect on how altered states deepen his connection to the sound. So let's hear from my guy Rene Wise how multivitamins helped him become the superstar DJ that he is now. I might need to take whatever he's taking. I might need to take it.
If you use psychedelics to get fucked up, then there's a good chance that they're gonna fuck you, because it's such a powerful thing. And
by the way, I'm loving this shirt thing that he's doing. By the way, I'm loving this look. I'm loving that he's ditching the t-shirts and he's starting to wear a lot of, like, you know, I guess high fashion stuff. I think he's looking good in it. Also the many buttons open, you know, it's a good look. It's a good look.
I think if you don't go into it with the right mindset and the right intention, that's when they can easily overwhelm you. Having like musical experiences on some of these psychedelics really, it again really helped shape and form my approach to music and the way that I perceive this type of music, and that's something I always have in mind.
You know what's really funny about him saying that? This makes a lot of sense, because I remember in the early days when people were still finding out about Rene Wise, one of the best parts of Rene Wise lore was people saying, oh my god, I just saw him on the dance floor, really going for it, really having a good time before and after his set. Like, he's known for like being an actual raver and not just being somebody that just sits in a fucking green room or just gets out of an Uber, plays and jumps back in the Uber and goes back to the hotel room to fucking rail lines with a bunch of fucking Belgium chicks, right? So he's actually in the field. So this makes a lot of sense because most likely those times that we've seen or heard of him on the dance floor, he was tripping balls, having an absolute blast, right? Feeling everything, seeing everything on the dance floor. Personally, I haven't actually, apart from, no, I have actually. I did this one, the only time I did psychedelics was when I went to Primavera Sound many years ago. It was pretty trippy, but I also regret not doing it at the festival. I kind of took it too late, you know me. I either peaked too early or I take my shit too late. And I remember taking like I think I had some acid that I might have bought from like you think it was Evolution Darknet. If you know, back in the day, I think I might have bought it from Evolution Darknet Market. And I took some with me, and then I took it on the way back from Primavera. And if you know anything about Primavera Sound, it's kind of near the beach. And I think our hotel was downtown, like in El Gofico, so you have to kind of walk way back to go back to the hotel or get a train or whatever. But we usually walk back. That's what most people did. You kind of that long march back to the hotel. And I remember taking it on the way back. And then when I got back to the Airbnb, that's the Airbnb. I was sleeping in one of the makeshift rooms in the living room, and I had a glass of water on the side table, and I remember it having ice in it. And when I took it, I was lying down. I remember looking at the glass, and legitimately, the ice was like hardening and then melting. You know what I mean? It was going forward and back, like it would melt and then it'd go forward and like go higher, and then the liquid in the cup would rise again. I was like, oh my god, bro, this shit is working. And I just wished I would have done it when I was in a festival. But I also know a bunch of people who love taking psychedelics at raves. Like they've kind of, they've left all the hard drugs and shit, and they've decided to do the thing that a lot of people in the tech industry or tech startup scene do, which is microdose, which is essentially just taking really small bits. So if you've got like a tab of acid, maybe you cut it into quarters, maybe you cut it into more than that, but you take little bits. And I'm sure now, because I remember seeing it actually on a subreddit, it might have been on the r/drug subreddit, where people kind of break down like how to microdose properly, like what sort of times to take your dosage. I know a lot of American people, especially in the EDM world, have really strict procedures and protocols when it comes to taking stuff like Molly or MDMA, and they really adhere to it. Like they're really stringent on not doing not mixing with other things, not drinking any booze, hydrating correctly, and sticking to the times, having alarms set up on their phones so they have the maximum experience, the best experience possible when it comes to psychedelics and raves and shit. And I think nowadays it's actually quite smart to do that, because I feel like a lot of festivals now, a lot of even nightclubs, they do invest a lot of money into their lightings and visuals and shit. So sometimes it can be a quite cool experience to take the psychedelic microdose so that you can get a lot more and experience and kind of, taking all that shit, all that work that's been done. Like think of a festival like Draaimolen, right, in Amsterdam. Also, I guess it's technically outside of Amsterdam, but regardless, you know what I mean. Imagine a festival like Draaimolen and the amount of work they put into the production. Imagine being high off psychedelics and like experiencing that whole shit, or the other one called Horst. All of the stuff that they do in terms of the artworks and shit, the installations, the sculptures, the lighting, the this, the that. Oof, what an experience that must be.
With my production in the studio, especially with the tracks I make, but also DJing as well, because once you experience certain types of sounds and textures on some of these psychedelics, and you experience the way, it's almost like you see the sounds, and
it sounds good. I want to get involved. This sounds like what? Oh, I wonder if this is what Pharrell was doing. Do you remember this is what Pharrell does? Pharrell has what's that condition? Synesthesia, allegedly. But maybe the reason why he was making such fucking bangers, maybe the reason why he had that fucking crazy production run when he was a part of what they fucking called that group with fucking Chad and the other guy and producing and shit. Maybe the reason why he was making such hit records and was so on point, right? I still think of Grinding now to this day. I think that might be one of the best hip hop beats of all time. Just the instrumental Grinding alone. That does something to you. That does something to you at a fucking guttural level. Maybe the reason why he was making those hits was because he was doing some fucking acid back then. While we were all still obsessed with Courvoisier and Ace of Spades and weed and shit, he was out here microdosing while he was hitting the MPC, while he was on the fucking keyboard, while he was in the studio. That's why he made those shits. Oh, I might have to give it a go. This is what I'm thinking. On a smaller level, to really take my pirate DJ sessions to the next level, I might have to take a little cheeky tab. Forget having a little cheeky bump or a cheeky fucking tonic wine. Maybe the way to go on my next pirate studio session might be to take a little cheeky tab. Keep that in one of my pockets.
Once you have that experiencing music on this 4-dimensional perspective, it's a very interesting thing to take back into the studio as inspiration. For me, if someone's listening to a set of mine, and I've had this before as a compliment, people saying to me that my set, like it made them feel like they were high even though they were sober. Like that for me is one of the best compliments, because if I can put you in this kind of hypnotized psychedelic state, even without any drugs, purely just from the sonic aspect of what's coming out the speakers, then that's like job done for me, you know?
Yeah, that's why he's a fucking top boy. And that's what you feel. You feel that, especially when you hear him play. I think you feel that even when you listen to his mixes, but more so when you go see him play in person. It is hypnosis. You feel like you're just being like taken on this weird fucking journey. If anything, like he has, maybe the sound isn't the same, but in terms of ambience and vibe and hypnotizing the crowd and putting you into a trance, he has the same sort of feeling I get when I go to like an Innovision night, when I see Trick, when I see Dixon, when I see Arm, when I see Jimmy Jules. That whole crew of people, they have even though they all have distinct styles of playing, the thing that kind of covers them or links them across the board is the fact that they have this ability to kind of like get you in a state, in a trance, where you're kind of hypnotized. And in all of the cases, whether you go and see Dixon, who I just saw recently in Amsterdam, whether you're seeing Rene Wise, one of the things which is a probably a marker of a really good DJ, you don't leave the dance floor. Many times I've seen Rene Wise, many times I've seen Dixon, you don't want to leave the dance floor. You don't want to leave because you don't want to miss something, and you don't want to be snapped out of that trance. And sometimes, knowing myself, when you're on the multivitamins, those type of mixes can actually help to elevate the experience. I don't know how it is to be sober in those type of environments. I'm not going to lie, because most of the times when I've been listening to Rene Wise or Dixon's playing, I've been off my fucking head. But I can't lie, and I have to say that they definitely added to experience. They added to it and heightened it more. But I do love the fact that he's promoting this psychedelics thing. I've heard of some people speaking about it in terms of gummies and chocolates and shit you could use. But it's nice that this is becoming a conversation. I think most people who really know Wagwan when it comes to partying, I think some people could even, I don't know if you could say ketamine is a psychedelic. It's a disassociative, but I think people microdose ketamine in the same way. But I think people who are really plugged in and who really rave, because especially when I go to places like Berlin, you meet a bunch of people who take raving maybe a little bit too seriously. But one thing they are really strict on and are really open to promoting and talking about is the fact that they don't drink, or that they stick to one particular drug. And that one is usually not something super hard. It's usually a psychedelic. And if it is something hard, it's something they're doing like small, micro dosing throughout the night, just to kind of add to the experience, to add to the fucking rave. Because they're there mainly for the music and not to get fucked up, which is not the same thing in the UK, So maybe it's a different cultural thing, maybe it's environment, maybe it's place where you're at. But I like that he's talking about this, because hopefully that would encourage more people to do it. So big up Rene Wise, and big up MPC Track as well in the comments here. Best kind of review of Rene in general. One of our best bookings last year. Just a great person in every sense of the word. And I wonder if maybe I just don't know a lot of DJs anyway in real life, but I wonder if a lot of the good sort of fortune you run into as a DJ, or somebody just trying to make it, is that if you're just a good person and you just put out good vibes, because a lot of like I said before, a lot of the law around Rene Wise was people having these great interactions with him on the dance floor, great interactions with him after the set, taking pictures, saying hi, talking, sharing DMs and shit, or exchanging DMs. So I wonder if a lot of that good sort of feeling that you give people can sometimes rub off on your career and kind of help you go along the way, because people are kind of rooting for you. Because that's what I feel like with Rene Wise. I feel like a lot of people are rooting for him from afar, whether it's people who booked him earlier on, or it's people like myself who saw him play early on. Everyone's kind of in their own way rooting for him. And I wonder if all of that collective rooting for him is sort of helping to kind of, take the career to the next level. Of course, his talent and his hard work is definitely the main reason why, but I wonder if that kind of helps. But then I also wonder for the DJs who are cunts, and don't like give people a good feeling, they also make it, you know. So maybe that's not the case. Who knows? Either way, big up Rene Wise. Full interview can be found on, I guess, RA's page and shit. So check them out. I think it's on their YouTube. I don't think it's on their podcast channel, but check out the Resident Advisor YouTube channel. You can find that. You can find that. Okie dokie, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been the Agostinho Zinga Show, episode number 898. Ocho Nueve Ocho. Going forward, for those of you who care, those of you who watch this show, those of you who listen to this show, especially the ones who watch this show, once I hit 900, so from 901 onwards, this show will be entirely streamed on my Kick channel only. I want to build up that Kick channel, so it's only going to be streamed on the Kick channel live. If you want to see the clips, that obviously I'll be uploaded on this channel still. I'll put the clips up on this channel, but all of the live streams for all of the full video episodes of the Tazs, the Agostinho Zinga Show, will only be available on my Kick channel. Kick channel is kick.com/Agostinho Zinga. Kick.com/Agostinho Zinga. I obviously put a proper post about it later on, but I want to build up that Kick channel, so all of the video, the live video of, you know, whatever of this show will always be on Kick, but the clips will still be on here. The clips will still be on here. I'll upload every single clip, will be on here, don't you worry, and the audio will remain as it is. But I want to help build up that Kick channel, and obviously when it gets built up a little bit, that'll be good going forward and shit. So if you want to migrate over there, do so. But from 901 onwards, you still got some episodes left, don't worry, but from 901 onwards, all episodes will be only streamed live on Kick, so definitely check out the Kick channel. But for those of you listening to the audio part of the show, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a pleasure, not a chore. My song of the day, for those of you listening via the audio side of the pod, is going to be by HAAi. The song is called I Can't Stand to Lose. It's from their EP that just dropped recently, actually. There's another track on there that's meant to be the lead single that people are really hype on. I think it's like Shapeshift or something, but I prefer the second track, which is I Can't Stand to Lose, or Can't Stand to Lose, sorry. Maybe on the B side, but it's track number 2 on it, featuring HAAi. Check it out, really great track. Big up her as well. Ridley Road Market Bar legend, and one of the rare instances of somebody kind of coming up from like a small bar and becoming a really prominent professional DJ and really killing us. So big up HAAi. Really good little EP that's out, or that's just dropped, I think, recently as well. So check that out right now. And for those of you listening or watching this live, you'll be switched over to the random show that'll be starting in about 5 to 10 minutes. But for now, thank you for tuning in to the Agostinho Zinga Show, episode number 898. Thank you. Take care. Peace.